Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by Realtree, Muddy Outdoors, Hoyt Archery, Fuse Accessories, Frigid Forage, Scott Archery, Cabela's, Trophy Rock, Night and Hail Game Calls, TrailCamPro.com, Bloodsport Arrows, Rocket Broadheads, and Nikon.
Welcome to Midwest Whitetail. In this episode, I'm going to take you back over the last week of hunting, and the main focus, the main theme of this episode is going to be the cold front that we had that came through the Midwest the first week of October. We've got a bunch of hunts on this episode, and right now I'm going to go pull the card out of one of my cameras down here behind me. Then I'll get you started with the hunt for the double G4 buck that started back on October 5th. This is going to be my first hunt of the 2012 season. And I said going into the season that I was going to play all my cards on the double G4 buck and run some trail cameras in his area, wait until he showed up during daylight, and then make my plan from there. Well, a few days before the season opened, he started showing up during daylight back on this Big and Beasty food plot. So I rolled the ground blind in there, the same one I used last year. And it took him just 3 or 4 days before he got used to that blind. I had some cameras on there in the field scan mode, and he turned up last night at 6 o'clock out in the middle of that Big and Beasty plot feeding. So I'm going in tonight. The wind is perfect. It's cool. We've had this cold front roll through. Hopefully that buck will come out tonight. It's exciting. It's the 4th chapter in the story of the hunt for the double G4 buck starts tonight. The buck first popped out at about, must have been somewhere around 6 o'clock. And for whatever reason, he ran across the ridge from left to right. We weren't sure what had spooked him. We knew it wasn't us, but we hoped that he'd come back out again before the evening was over. Here he is. Next sighting of the double G4 buck was on the other end of the Big and Beasty plot at probably about 6:30 or 6:40. At this point, I'm thinking that with some luck, we got a lot of time left, this buck could end up within bow range of the blind. It was interesting that the buck was actually chasing does on the food plot. This is October 5th, not November 5th. We're a long ways away from the rut. But I guess the cold front had the bucks more active and thinking about the rut. When the buck started running does towards the blind, I thought, finally, this is going to be my chance. The blind was actually located between a pickcorn field and the Big and Beasty plot, and the does were working their way past. One doe got ahead of the group, and unfortunately I didn't know she was there. When I opened a window to get ready to shoot, I either spooked her or she picked up on something, and then she stiffened up, and that stopped the whole rest of the parade. with the double G4 buck stalled out at 62 yards. Man, that was a close call tonight. The buck was following some does, and they were going to come past the blind. Closest he came was 62 yards, and I've already decided I'm only going to shoot 40 yards under those type of conditions. So it was, it was close. I'd say if we keep after it and we don't blow the deer off that field, we'll have another crack at that buck. But it was still exciting. He's a heck of a deer, and it's just a privilege to be able to hunt him. So we'll keep doing it. We'll keep after it. We got the whole season ahead. We'll take a look at these when I get back to the office. I've got a couple more cards that I've got to pull. But in the meantime, Scott Prucha was hunting his farm the very next day. And it was still cool, and he got into a great buck.
In front of us tonight. We were up on top of this hill where we could see the beans last night, and we thought they were going to be in the cut corn and the standing corn behind us, but it seemed like most of the deer were down here in the beans, and we actually saw one good buck, a buck we call Ugly. It's kind of got a lopsided rack, and so we're hoping he makes an appearance tonight right on here in front of the blind, and we'll let some blood sport arrows fly. It's an awesome night, 45 degrees, high pressure. Deer should be on their feet. We're hoping for a good night. It's a couple minutes before 5, and we've had our first deer in the field here. We had a nice mature doe and a couple fawns kind of feed through. We are just waiting for the arrival of the big guys. I got some footage of him, but I'm nervous about the window. Oh, he's turned, he's walking. He's facing straight at us, so it's good. We've got Ugly out in the field here. And he's about 60 yards away, and we're going to hour light. And we're not sure if he's going to go up the hill or come in front of us here. So we're in full game on ready mode here right now, watching him to see what's going to happen. We don't want to open these windows yet to get footage because the wind is blowing to the north towards him. So we got to just get ready. Spin this around. Let's go. He's really cool. 36 yards right now, for crying out loud. Is that him? Yeah. It was almost a cheat revisited. I thought he was going to leave the field, and he stopped. I think I put a great hit on him. I think I center punched him. We wanted to get more pre-roll footage, but the winds were kind of drifting that way, and we're in the bottom where everything swirls. So we just let him go. We waited till he got where we get the camera on him in this blind or this window in front of us, and I think we just got the job done there. that's awesome. Here we are. What is it? October 6th, Saturday. Oh, man. Well, it's been about 20 minutes since we shot that deer. And we're gonna go look for the arrow here and see what we got. We did not see him come out of the creek, but we looked back at the footage. It looked awesome, so. That is a bloody arrow. The old blood sport and rocket. Looks like it did its job. Last year, I shot Waldo. I'm telling you, he was right on the other side of the creek, and we said, how are we going to get that deer? First of all, we said, how are we going to get over there? And we made it over. This year, he's in the creek. I'm telling you, he's 10 feet from where Waldo died. I got to see it. Look at that. I said that last night when we saw him. He still had velvet hanging down. Ah, oh. Look at that. He is a slob. That deer is a giant. Look at all that junk on his bases. Wow. I'm so happy to shoot this deer, man. And I had a close call in Wisconsin opening weekend on a buck, and it didn't work out. And I've been thinking about this ever since that time. I was like, if I close the deal on this deer, it goes out to my buddy Rick, who didn't make it. He was battling cancer, and last fall he was down here with me. His nephew's down here with me right now, hunting his farm, and he was hunting Rick's farm this morning. That's a couple miles away. So Rick, this one's for you, buddy. What an old cool deer. That thing's awesome. It was perfect, man. We saw this deer last night, and he came out. I mean, I don't know, he walked right by us. It was getting a little nerve-wracking. We thought he was going to get by us. We didn't want to open the windows too early because the wind was blowing towards him. But I don't know. I mean, I hadn't been on this farm for 3 weeks. I think that's a big part of it. We didn't pressure this farm. Haven't even checked cameras. So this is awesome. This is awesome, buddy. Whew. What a cool deer. I couldn't be happier. Rick, this one's for you, pal. What an awesome deer.
I've got 5 cards here. I'm going to go put them in the computer and see if I've got any more pictures of the double G4 buck. And I'll show you what we've got here at the end of the show, but we've got a couple more segments. The first one is going to be the hunt that Greg Clemens had, and I believe it would have been a couple of days after my encounter with the double G4 buck. So we'll let Greg kind of tell the story of his hunt.
All right, well, it's October 9th. We've got another cool day. It's overcast. It's about 50 degrees right now. I would expect the deer are going to be moving pretty good. The spot we're going to is back in by the cabin, and there's a Big and Beasty food plot in there that grew up really lush. It should be a killer spot for tonight. We're going to go in, get the stand set up, and also just get a feel for what's going on back in by the cabin.
Well, as you can see, this Big and Beasty has just been mowed down. We wanted to hang a stand somewhere right on this field, but we can't find a suitable tree. We're just going to go to the clover field and hopefully get some deer to come by us. Well, we just got settled into the stand. It's a perfect early October evening. 50 degrees, a little bit of light rain. So we're coming in here specifically tonight on a doe mission. Hopefully we'll work this way and go right through this open gate, which would give us a 15 to 20 yard shot. Fat one. Water good. Yeah, it was low. That happened fast. We had 2 does come in across the clover field. Spike came in first, came right through the open gate, and we figured they would follow, and sure enough, these 2 does followed right through, and I actually got her to turn broadside on this side of the open gate. She was only 18 yards away, so I was a little bit disappointed to see that I hit low, but when she ran off, I thought I could see blood just pouring out, so hopefully it caught the bottom of the heart. We'll see what happens, but it's not even 5 o'clock yet, and we've got deer moving. I can actually look out here and see deer out in the cornfield. I'm gonna load up another arrow, hopefully. I've got 2 doe tags, so hopefully we can fill the other one.
There. There's a good spot. Oh, there's a white belly. Well, mission accomplished tonight. Got a nice doe here. Well, that right there is why I love shooting rocket broadheads, and in particular the hammerhead. With that 2-inch cutting diameter is a huge advantage when you have marginal hits like that. And I knew when I shot I'd hit lower than I wanted to. When she ran off, we could see blood pouring out, so that kind of helped our confidence, and we had a good blood trail the whole way, and she only made it about 80 yards, so not bad at all. Great night overall, really cooling down. I can see my breath. It's going to be 27 degrees for a low overnight, and then tomorrow morning, Bill and I are going to get in the Death Ridge stand and hopefully get a crack at G4.
It's the morning of October 10th. It's the earliest I've ever hunted it. Now I've got a pretty good idea why I don't hunt it this early. It's so thick back in here and the visibility is so limited that unless the buck comes in and beds underneath this tree, I'm not sure we'll even see him. Might do a little bit of blind calling. That's going to be our only hope, I think. We're only just a short ways away from where I've been hunting this double G4 buck on the food plot up on top of the ridge. We're probably 100 yards to 150 yards from the blind. So it's an area where, you know, if he's out on the move much, you'd like to think he'd come through here in the morning.
We sat there for a couple of hours. It's really thick back in there. I mean, you really almost can't see anything past about 40 yards from the tree. After a couple of hours, we slipped out of there. And later in the day, I went in and pulled the cards from my cameras up on the ridge. And lo and behold, there was the double G4 buck right on the Big and Beasty plot at the same time that we were down in the tree stand 100 yards away.
There he is. This morning. We weren't too far from him. Ha!
So that brings us up to date on the hunt for the double G4 buck. I'm going to run these cards through the camera and figure out if I've got, or find out if I've got any daylight photos of this buck. And if so, try to come up with a plan for the next couple of days. Now I got my work cut out for me again, trying to figure out what to do with this buck. Pulled the cards, and he seems to have shifted where he's moving right now from up on that ridge down into this little valley. And valleys are always notorious for swirling winds, and I hate just diving down in there. I do have a ground blind on one end of it, or a shooting house, that potentially a person could scent proof that, but the wind is not quite right for it right now. I've got a couple of days here where the wind would be right for it coming up in the future. Probably not today or the next 2 days, but starting maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere in that time frame, I might be able to get down in there. But the one camera had him walking past in daylight 6 days in a row. I have to admit, I've never hunted a buck that was that predictable. So maybe that goes with the theory that when they get older, they become more daylight active. But for whatever reason, I just wish he was up on a ridge and not down in that valley, or we'd be hanging a tree stand right now instead of doing this interview. But anyway, we got that going for us next week. I'm sure there'll be some other stuff that we can bring to you as well. We're going to wrap up this week's episode right here. And all I can say is I appreciate you joining us this week, and we'll see you back here again next week for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail. Remember to always dream big.